Hello, everybody. You are watching Out of Order. My name is Anthony Buono.
My name is Ben Mayer.
And on this episode, we are going to be discussing the Palestinian protests that are erupting across the country. Specifically, we want to talk about the protest that's going on at Columbia University over in New York. Now, this has really captured the American attention over the last couple weeks.
This is half of my Twitter feed right now.
Some of it is justified, some of it is not. I definitely want to open and preface this with, this is not the biggest national story that should be on the front page of every newspaper.
Agreed.
It should not be the biggest thing we talk about. It is not that big of a deal. These are just college kids, and that's all it is.
Yes.
It's not a big deal. This is not talking about the character of the country.
No.
There's nothing like that going on here.
Everything that I've learned about this is that it's like college. It's just college kids who want to be part of a protest.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's exactly what it is. College kids who want to be part of a protest. And they're protesting for what is a good cause. Protesting for a ceasefire in Gaza is the right thing to be protesting for. How they go about protesting it is a whole different story.
Yes. The mechanics that they're trying to use, the mechanisms that they're using to try to get to that ceasefire are kind of absurd, in my opinion.
So let's start from kind of where they're coming from here, or what their tactic is. They've set up an encampment on one of the lawns at the university. Mm-hmm. They've basically made it impossible for people to go to in-person classes. A lot of them are going to be online now until the end of the year in Columbia. Mm-hmm. That's making a lot of people upset because they spent a lot of money to go to Columbia. Now their campus is shut down. Mm-hmm. They refused to leave. The NYPD was called on them. A couple people got arrested. Now we're at this point where the administration is trying to work with the protesters to get them to leave peacefully or slowly dismantle the encampment or work with the fire department to make sure everything's safe. Columbia is now letting them self-police the encampment a little bit. Columbia is not really yeah, Columbia, they're going a little hands-off now.
Okay.
That's making some people upset. Some people want them to call in the National Guard and break it up. I don't want a repeat of Kent State massacre, so I don't want any of that. But there is a lot of dynamics going on. So basically, they're sitting on this lawn, they're doing protests, and I'm going to be blunt. Some of the protests are disgusting, flat out. I want to start there. A lot of the protests are, whether misinformed or not, are blatantly pro-Hamas.
Is it a lot or is it some?
We don't know how many. I have no data. There is at least a sizable number of people that makes it explicitly clear from the videos I've seen and the testimony that I hear online that it is at least a noticeable and real problem. Whether or not it's 50%, 40, 30, 20, even if it's 10, that's too much.
Yes,
right?
Of course. Because, nobody should be pro-Hamas.
But I also want to emphasize, it's not just one crazy person either.
Yes.
It's not one crazy person. There is a sizable chunk of this that is blatantly not...
it's not pro-Palestinian, it's
pro-Palestinian.
Pro-Hamas.
And I want to just give an example of this picture that I'm looking at here. So, in a counter-protest, Zionists, showed up, Jewish people, showed up with Israeli flags and were singing an Israeli hymn or a Jewish hymn. I don't know.
Okay. And
in front of them, singing, stands this woman who has her face covered, with one of the Palestinian protest cloths. I don't know the name of it. And it says, Al-Qassam's next targets, and then an arrow pointing to the Jewish students. Al-Qassam is a militant wing of Hamas. So she's blatantly making fun or joking at the idea of Hamas coming in and killing Jewish students on her campus.
Yeah. That's horrific.
And the fact that the other Palestinian protesters who are, I guess, going to go and sit with her after this aren't kicking her out, aren't yelling at her, aren't telling her how terrible she is as a human being.
Yeah.
That means that people are comfortable with this happening, and that's not right.
Or they don't know what Al-Qassam is. Well, there's comfortable with it happening, but there's also uncomfortable with speaking out about it.
There's that too.
Feels like Lord of the Flies type dynamics.
I totally see that.
Right?
Yeah, that
where
makes
it's
sense.
just like the further extreme you go, it's weirdly a more dominant position to take, or it's like a more pure position, and so if you speak out against it, you risk being the out group. Maybe.
Yeah. And listen, that's fine, but I want that notion to get across the fact that this is just so much of a big ass virtue signal.
Yes.
And it's just a social event.
It is, yes.
And so I'm saying it's just a social event. Why do I say that? Well, they have a list of demands, okay?
Yeah.
I'm not going to read all of them. There's no point. But there is one list of demand, they're 0.5, okay, where they want the university to release a statement that gives the Palestinians the right of self-determination, Jerusalem as the capital of Palestine, which is, okay, that's like the most controversial, intense position you could take, is to give all of Jerusalem to the Palestinians. That is the most intense version of a two-state solution you can imagine. The right of colonized people to resist against the occupation. What does that mean? What does that mean, guys?
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Yeah.
And then the last one is the right of Palestinian refugees to return. The right of return has been the biggest sticking point in debates over this issue since 48. The rights of all the 700,000 Palestinians who had to flee Israel after the 1948 war to come back is the most contentious aspect of any peace negotiation. And they want Colombia to come out and make these types of statements?
Yeah, they want Colombia to be like, we're pro-Palestine now.
Yeah, they want
plain
Colombia,
and simple.
They want Colombia to be like, okay, guys, no more. We've solved the Palestinian problem.
Yeah,
and what are you doing? It's
obviously ridiculous.
It's unserious.
Yes, and I think the other point that makes it clearly unserious is their call for Colombia to divest from all companies that, quote, support Israel's genocide in Gaza. And you which I'm so grateful for, posted this massive diagram.
This is a diagram that the Columbia students are handing out to other Columbia students.
Yeah, just very quickly, this diagram has about 20 rectangles with like 100 arrows pointing between them. And it lays out how the trustees and the administration of the university basically funds war profiteers, including Lockheed Martin and Heiko, which are weapons manufacturers, but also BlackRock, Google, and Microsoft as companies that enable the IDF's apartheid, occupation, and genocide in Gaza. So that means they need to not invest in Microsoft, Google, or BlackRock because they're supporting the IDF. If that is the case, if Google and Microsoft are companies that you're not allowed to invest in, how far out does it ripple, right?
Is every company listed on the S&P 500 complicit in genocide?
Yeah.
Is my 401k making me complicit in genocide?
Yes.
Is that what's happening?
Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
And so they say BlackRock. If you replace BlackRock with Fidelity or Vanguard or any other investment institution, well, they all invest in every one of these companies.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's just since BlackRock invests in every single company, including Fidelity and State Street, like you've just included every company. So you can't invest in the market.
Right,
anymore.
You can't invest in the marketplace anymore? And if you do invest in the marketplace, are you complicit in genocide?
Yes.
It just makes it so unbelievably unserious. The chart, I wish we could show it to you. Because it looks like the episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where Charlie Day, if you've seen the show, was trying to figure out who Pepe Sylvia is, and the whole fucking bathroom is covered with yarn, and he's trying to figure out this mystery. That's what it looks like. It looks like schizophrenia posting.
Yeah,
that's what it looks like.
It's completely silly. And the one other thing I'll say, to kind of put a button on this and go back to the initial point, this isn't serious. This isn't really a big deal. I listened to a podcast where they interviewed some of the editors of the student newspaper, and they asked like, what do you see when you go outside right now? And they're just like, people are just chilling. Like people are just hanging out on campus. Like it's completely normal. They said there was a release by one of the heads of the the Jewish student organization, and I think it might have been in concert with one faculty member who's been like really outspoken and gained this following on Twitter about how these pro-Palestinian protests are really bad, about how like it's making it unsafe to be on campus, blah blah blah, and they were kind of laughing at it because they say it's completely unserious. Like it's way overplaying the danger and the threat that's caused by it. No one is in danger. No one has been harmed. These are completely peaceful protests, and they've stayed that way. And it's like the Jewish organizations are trying to paint this picture that it is more extreme and more dangerous than it is. Like the ramping up that's happening is all preemptive to things that were never going to happen.
Yes.
Like calling the police onto campus to arrest like 100+ students was preemptive to protests that were never going to turn violent.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's not a big deal. The only reason it's a big deal is because it's getting so much attention. I feel like that's a reason for us to give our comment on this.
And I think these are dangerous, but they're not dangerous to the Jewish students for violence. They're not dangerous in that type of regard. They're dangerous because they're poisoning the minds of people with false information and false expectations. And that's what gets me nervous because a lot of these students think they're doing the right thing. And yeah, you're on the right side. Protesting against the war in Palestine is the right thing to do at this moment. But you suggesting that Google and Microsoft are complicit in genocide in a way that makes, I don't know, all of these trustees that are on the board of Columbia wholly complicit, you look foolish, and you're creating a danger for the movement generally.
Yes.
That's what makes me nervous. Thank you for watching this episode of Out of Order.
Crazy that you made it to the end.
If you enjoyed the content, please subscribe on YouTube and check us out on Patreon.
Yep, link is in the description of our YouTube channel, and we're super poor, so we could use any support you can give.
Fantastic. Thanks, guys.